Welcome. Glad to have each and every one of you here for the city council meeting tonight, June 11th. If you have any cell phones or anything that may make a sound, I would kindly ask you to turn those off or at least turn those down. And we appreciate you being here. As you can tell, the council is all here and accounted for. And so I thank you for that. Tonight, I'm going to lead us in the pledge, and Reverend Karen Davis will lead us in prayer. So if you would stand, I would appreciate that. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us join together in prayer. Comforting and sustaining God, during this week in which we stop to remember and pay tribute to the life of Agent Louis Pompey, we are grateful for those who dedicate themselves and serving their communities each and every day, and especially those who put service above self and are willing to make a sacrifice. We pray that you continue to watch over all of those who stand in harm's way this day. And we ask your blessing on our meeting tonight. May you grant to us your wisdom. May you guide us with your vision. And may you surround us with your grace. We ask your blessing on this time tonight, and may we all be inspired by the example of others to always put forth our best. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Is there anybody on the council that would like to add or reorder the agenda? Okay, seeing none, hearing none, we'll keep it as it is. We will move into item 1, public hearing, public comment period. I'm sorry. We do have some public hearings, but we will do the comment period first. I do have cards. If you want to speak, please come up to the lectern and get a yellow card and fill one out. There's a time frame that's up on both screens. Please stay within that. Be as graceful and as civil as you can. Direct any of the comments toward me. And with that, we will start. Let me start with Mr. Mark Smith. Mark, welcome.
Mark Smith here. I heard a comment made at the last city council meeting about people saying that the city is racist. Well, it is. I got a taste of that when a week or two ago, and I knew that where that came from. You control the Huey, Dewey, and Cheatham and Howe city lawyer and the city manager control the police department's actions. When I tried to get confirmation and understanding, nobody could be heard on a phone. They all disappeared. For those who don't remember, I've had a go-arounds and pointed out illegal activities. And the illegal activities start here in this chamber and City Hall, because they have the capability of not answering to anybody. And what they say can be a false lie straight across. So when you're dealing with or listening to anything that comes from this body, remember, liars, number one, save yourself is what they do. Now, it's also been a haven for KKK members, white power, who threaten people, and the city looks the opposite direction. Now, what we had here is a problem last month where a robbery took place. My goodness gracious. Not either one of the police chiefs let that out. What the city does is they hide things from people. They're not transparent. They're as dark as a midnight light. Now, we had something happen in the past where a robbery took place, and guess what? They caught the thieves, put the money in the police chief's safe, and it disappeared. But the city paid off in their insurance. And that's probably what's going to happen with this. I feel it was a job that was perpetrated and done somewhere among people here in this city hall. Now, we don't need the police department because they're a bunch of Rio Hondo graduates anyway. We need the sheriff's department. And I've offered, by the way, for polygraph tests. Guess what? City council wouldn't handle it, couldn't handle it. But Ed Brubaker, I promised I'd say that, he hopes you will have the manhood or the kibbutz to come up and take a polygraph. It's only 15 or 20 words. In meaning, in closing, lies are perpetrated and the deals are already done, ladies and gentlemen. This is a show and a facade. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mark. Next, I would like to call up Lisa Peralt. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. For those who I haven't met, and I think I've met everybody here now, my name is Lisa Brault. I am Senator Anthony Portantino's district representative representing Glendora. And so I just wanted to introduce myself and let everybody know you will be seeing me. Ribbon cuttings, dinners, luncheons, and I'm here to listen to anything that you need from our office, here to help, here to offer, and just wanted to say good evening.
Great, Lisa, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Next, Joe Cena. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Joe Cena, President and CEO of the Glendora Chamber of Commerce, and I thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. Not to steal anyone's thunder, but this Thursday is the annual State of the City. It's going to be a bit different again this year. It's going to be in the evening, food. You don't have to pay anything to go, so there's that option too. At the Carruthers Teen Center at 5:30. Program will start about 6:15. There'll be some special entertainment. I won't steal that if the mayor wanted to talk about it later. But there are tickets still available. Glendora's stateofthecity.com. Yeah, or give me a call at the chamber. Also, at the end of the month, on the 26th, we're having our annual installation and awards dinner where we celebrate and thank our outgoing board and install our incoming board, and then also give our business awards, which this year's Business of the Year is Seba Beauty. Nonprofit of the Year is the Rotary Club of Glendora. I didn't vote. I didn't count them, so don't think that. New Member of the Year is Rob Vanderbun from John Hart Real Estate. Sustainable Business of the Year is SoCal Gas. And our Ambassador of the Year is Kathy Jarvis from Kathy's Wishing Well and one of the bid board members. So please join us for that if you want to celebrate and also hear kind of the state of the chamber. That's my opportunity to kind of tell people what's been going on, because we do have new staff members. It's not just me anymore. And we've changed it up. We're doing stuff no other chamber is doing in the area. And I think people are liking it because our membership's growing again. So please join us for that. And I'm sure the council can attest to this. We've had a lot of ribbon cuttings recently, and there's 2 tomorrow. Publicly, I want to thank City Council and the staff. You're at almost every ribbon cutting, everybody, and that's rare. To be honest, it really is rare, and we thank you for that. The businesses thank you for that too. They like having council and the staff there. But tomorrow, the Red Cafe down in the village, it's kind of an 8-year celebration and a name change. So they're not new, but So if you can come out for that if you like. And then Handel's Ice Cream down by the AMC Theater is at 5 PM. So there's more coming. You know, we'll get the invites out, but we'll wait until maybe July or August. So a lot more going on, but that's my time. I'm up the street if anybody has questions, and the chamber's proud to support and serve the city of Glendora. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And thank you for the excellent work that you do. You and your team just really do a great job. Last card that I have is Bill Burton Tino. I'm sorry, I messed up your name, Bill. But I like your, shirt too.
Thank you.
I feel like I should stand up and salute or something. So, Bill, it's yours.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. Up until last week, I had never seen a peacock in Glendora west of Pennsylvania Avenue. Last Wednesday, I got up and went into my backyard, into the garden area, and there were two full-sized peahens. I was not happy. I was very unhappy. I vigorously shooed them out of the garden, out of the backyard, out the driveway, back to Barranca. Where they went after that, I don't know. But my feeling is that if they come back, I will be more than just shooing. I do not want them in my yard. They're not native to the area. They scare away animals that are native to the area. And I don't want them in my yard. So that's the first item. Second item, I've had several people ask me to talk about. It has to do with restroom facilities for these hearings. Some of us are older, and to stay until 9 o'clock can be an ordeal. And I know people who have had to leave because there just wasn't, they had to go to the bathroom, and there isn't a bathroom around here, and they didn't feel like going to Kara's Corners to buy something to use the bathroom. So if some sort of bathroom facilities for the people who attend the meetings could be provided, that would be a big, big change. And my last item is for the city manager. Can we do something about some of these intersections? I don't really think I should have to sit at Barranca and Foothill for 30 seconds for a green arrow for going left when there's nobody who wants to go left. It's empty, but it's activated anyway, and not for like 5 or 10 seconds. I can listen to half a song in the time it takes. Bennett is horrible. The Bennett and Grant. Another light that I used to like, don't like it anymore. Can't turn right onto Grand. I guess the kids that go across Grand are safe. You can turn right from Grand onto Bennett, so those kids are in danger, I suppose. And then the last light that, well, it's become infamous now amongst people, Alosta and Grand. Sometimes it resembles being on Las Vegas Boulevard at a key intersection, sitting there and sitting there and sitting there and sitting there. If you folks could do something, please do. If it's out of your control, I guess there's nothing to be done. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. All right. That's all of the cards that I have. Do you have any more? Okay, sure. Hector, welcome.
Great to be here. I'm a board member for Project 2911, a food bank in Covina. We distribute our food every Friday at starting about 12:30, but some people show up at 7 a.m. and we give about 60 pounds of food to about close to 230 people, depending on how many people show up that Friday, right? And depending how much food we get. And I've been in Glendora for almost 2 decades, and I've always had a great time here. So I've appreciated the administration and what they've done. And I'm looking forward to getting more involved in here in Glendora in small things, police, the police thing. Anyways, back to my focus here. The food bank, we're having an event on Tuesday, July 9th called the Summer Cool Down. It's a fundraiser and also raise awareness for the food bank. Basically, we're crossing a Red Cross blood drive. So we need people, healthy people with blood to come and show up and donate their blood. As well, we're having a drawing where we have like Athens and a commercial real estate company who have donated some nice prizes, 75-inch screen TV and a gondola ride with a restaurant gift certificate and a few other things, where it's $10 an entry for the drawing. And all the proceeds are going to go to the food bank as well. We're having a live band. We're having the taco man and some desserts, where part of the proceeds of those are going to go into the food bank as well. So any way you guys could support, we would love to have you guys there. Like I said, we're having a really nice live band there. They are excellent. They're all pretty much retired, but they love to play at for nonprofits and for other things. So we passed out the flyer here, and just wanted to invite everybody to come over and show some support if they're available, or buy some raffle tickets or donate some of that blood. So thank you guys.
Hector, before you step away,
Yes.
location and what time on the night?
Okay, so it's going to be, like we said, July 9th, and the blood drive is from 1:30 to 7 p.m. At our facility, and the summer cool down, we're calling it, is going to be at our location as well from 4 to 8:30. Oh, and the mayor, John King of Covina, he's going to actually be choosing some of the prizes, and some of the other council members are going to be choosing the drawing winners as well. So he'll be there, and if the police and the fire department next door is not too busy, they're going to stop by as well and support.
Okay, perfect.
So thank you guys. All right.
Thank you, sir. All right. Pardon? You have one announcement? Okay. So I will close the public hearing and,
Public comment,
oh, okay.
and it's a replacement report to replace attachment A with the agenda item number 16 entitled Annual Comprehensive Financial Report for Fiscal Year End June 30th, 2023 was distributed to the legislative body and made available to the public.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, I will now close the public comment period and bring it back to council. And for any updates, Michael?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Bill, the restrooms are right to the door here. So maybe we can get a sign eventually or something of that nature, but they're right to the door there. And Adam, can you update on the peacocks, the remedies?
Yeah, I believe Bill's already spoken to city staff about the peacocks and the avenues that are available to him. It just so happens that Inland Valley is also back there and can remunerate any number of those issues that are there. And I believe you were here the night we talked about peafowl and its entirety. So there are certain requirements that we have to have, and if it's on your private property, then I think you've been educated on what you can and can't do and how you have to go about doing those things. As it relates to streetlights, right? My favorite thing. So in Glendora, we have a hard time with streetlights and peacocks, which means it's a pretty good quality of life, but also annoying. So on Route 66, for me, for example, a compromise line, sometimes at 4:30 in the morning, the light turns red, and I text Bill at 4:30 in the morning and ask him why. So I know the gold line's on, so we'll blame them too for all the streetlights that are here. Just really quickly, I believe you're talking about Foothill and Grand, that intersection that's there. And so the California Public Utility Commission actually has oversight on any intersection where the train goes through. The city does not control that and or create the design. So if you want a reason to be mad at Sacramento, there's a good reason. Those turns are measured specifically because there will be a freight train eventually that moves through there with the gold line obviously above. And so there's a lot of movement through the intersections. That's why the crosswalks are actually moved back, and it's got a lot going on in that intersection. So you're right. It does. I think it's a very accurate statement to say that intersection reflects a much larger city. It's just because of all the things that are happening in that intersection. As it relates, I think, to Bennett and Grand Avenue, the intersection was done and the turn signals were added based on a study for safety of children. I can't remember if you were at that meeting where we talked about the traffic findings and accident. So that intersection was set up to specifically address those interactions between mostly pedestrian and vehicles. So I know Bill's back there and can provide any additional information should you have some of those questions. As it relates to the rest of the intersections, unfortunately, like a lot of things in Glendora, it's old. And so we have infrastructure that when the city had the opportunity in the late mid 90s to early 2000s, when it replaced some of its signalized infrastructure, we did not add modern components at that time and or the capacity of the areas to add modern technology as it became available. And the city never trenched and put in fiber and so on and so forth. So I think we gave an estimate to the council, and it's one of our future projects to streamline Route 66. Essentially, it's over $1 million just to try to get us to a signalized intersection, but it's well over $4 or $5 million to actually add all the infrastructure necessary to add the cameras. So people oftentimes, when you go to an intersection, you see a camera up top, you think it's recording you, and it's not. The camera is actually measuring the new ones if it's a person walking the street, if it's a person on a bike, if it's a person in a car, if it's a truck, what lane they're in, and it changes the signals accordingly. I think it is well over $5 million just to bring us up to that, and something that is unfunded for us. So we are looking at funding options. So apologies. I know sometimes it's difficult to sit there and wait that extra 30 seconds, like you mentioned. I too do the same thing. Sometimes I'm like, I'm just going to run this light. So I totally understand. We are working on some of those things. And I think like many things that you'll hear tonight in the CIP report, we have a lot of aging infrastructure that hasn't been addressed for a long time, but we're trying. So Nicole's back there from Inland Valley. Nicole, if you could raise your hand. There you go. Bill, can you raise your hand? You can blame everything on him from infrastructure. So, all right. And I think we covered all those bases. Anything else?
You want to extend, we have a contract now with LA County to
We do.
to maintain this?
Yeah, so one of the unique things is when you have someone, and LA County's done a phenomenal job for us maintaining our signalized infrastructure so well, in fact, that they keep pointing out flaws. So staff has actually been back to council twice to ask for more money at the city council as we fix things. So sometimes when you fix things, it becomes more noticeable as it's a work in progress. So we definitely do apologize. We definitely understand that there's some work to be done, but we are trying as best we can with the resources we have to make that happen. But anything else?
So you don't have to just be mad at Sacramento about the lights. You can be mad at the county too.
There you go. That's right.
You okay, Bill? Got everything?
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mendel.
Thank you, Bill, for bringing all of this up. Now we're all informed a little bit more. So, and all right, Gary, anything?
Sure, just a couple things. May and June are really busy in Glendora right now.
They are.
A lot of things going on. There've been a lot of events in the last few weeks and a number of things coming up. Since I want to talk about our coming up on the 4th of July, over the 4th of July, the Rotary Club does our annual Field of Heroes, where we have a flag display at City Hall. And we've always done it at Sunflower School, but Sunflower was purchased this year. And so it's being moved to Gladstone. So the display is going to go up on July 3rd and come down on July 7th. But my main reason for bringing this up is that if anybody is interested in sponsoring a flag or sponsoring the event, you can go to the Rotary Club's website. You can just Google Glendora Rotary, you'll find us. But more importantly, we are desperately in need of help of installing the flags on July 3rd. So we had a union group that has helped us the last few years, and pounding those things into the ground is extremely cumbersome for those of us that are aging a little bit and need to use the bathroom more often. So, but the unique thing this year at the Gladstone Field of Heroes, we are going to be starting our summer movies in the park, which is also sponsored by the Rotary Club and Glendora Community Services. And so down at Gladstone Park on Friday, July 5th, we're going to show Top Gun. So the first movie of our series this year will be at Gladstone. And then the next 5 movies will be at Finkbeiner on the following Friday nights for the next 5 Fridays. So plan on being there. And then since I'm on the subject, I'll go ahead and announce the concerts in the park actually start on June 23rd. They're on Sunday night, starting at 6 o'clock. Reminder, I always got to remind people this, the movies start when it's dark. People will come to us all the time and ask if we could start the movies earlier, and we could, but you wouldn't be able to see them. So it's typically about 8:30 that time of year, so they do start late. But the concerts start Sunday night, 6 o'clock, starting on June 23rd with The Answer, and they'll end up on August 4th with the Dreamboats will be here. One other thing I was asked to announce tonight, the Little Sunshine Foundation is holding a casino night. It's going to be at the Glendora Women's Club on Saturday, June 22nd, starting at 5 o'clock. So if anybody has the bug to go out and pretend to gamble, you want to have a good time and support a good cause, the Little Sunshine Foundation. And they work with a lot of kids, especially with sports and other things that kids in need are always needing. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Gary. Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one announcement. This Saturday, June 15th, Congresswoman Grace Napolitano's office, in conjunction with Catherine Barger and Judy Chu, will be holding a Veterans Forum at the Azusa Armory, which is, if you follow Sierra Madre all the way, it's where it dead ends. They'll have resources there. They'll have representatives from various agencies. So if you are a veteran or know someone who is that would like to access various services, that would be a great place to avail yourself of that. So 8:30 a.m. Saturday, June 15th is when it all begins.
Great, thank you. David?
No comments, Sid.
All right.
No reports. Thank you.
And just let me say, Joe did a great job of talking about Thursday night, state of the city. A lot of people, they wonder what's going on. And I'm here to say that is a great event for anybody that wants to know what's going on. There will be a Q&A, and that's always a scary thing for any of us, but it's always a good time because there's enlightenment there. And so I really hope that you will share with your friends that this is a good time to come down, be a part of something fun. Piper Band is going to be there, and when you think of where we live and who we are, the Piper Band has got to be like within the top 2 or 3 things that you think of. There's going to be fine food there, beer and wine and fellowship and just good time. It's a casual time, so you can come just dressed as you are and slacks or jeans or shorts or flip-flops or whatever you want, but it's going to be great. And we're going to make it a good time to enlighten everybody about what's happened, what is happening, and what is going to occur. A lot of people say, when is Glendora going to be fixed? The, avenue, the, street. Come on Thursday night and you will be given an update on when Glendora Avenue is going to be fixed. Now, is that not a carrot to hang out there for everybody? So promise you that we will talk about that. So it's going to be a good night. So Adam, is there anything to add? The chamber sponsors this. Joe will be there to kind of kick it off. City has invested a lot of time, effort, energy to make sure it's a good night. And so and you think of the teen center as just a place where basketball's played. Come down. It's going to be something that is different, and it's going to be really, really nice. So would enjoy having you there. With that, and if it's if there's still time, you can always go over to Handel's and get some ice cream because they're going to be open that night. So that'll be fun too. I know that the Mayor Pro Tim will probably be there because he's a ice cream expert. So, yeah. All right, Adam, anything? No? City Attorney, anything? Okay, great. Thank you. All right. Well, we will move on. Right now, we're going to go to item 2, and it's an item that I requested a couple of months ago. There's supposed to be a Zoom with some friends from our Gold Line group. I'm on the Gold Line board. I'm honored to serve on that board, represent us. And a couple months ago, the board was given an update, and Tanya, I think, is on the call. You can wave, say hi. And Tanya was there, and she was talking about what the station area is going to look like, from the signage, the pedestals, the landscaping, just all of the cool stuff that's going to kind of make it happen for us. And I thought that it would be a good thing for us to, see that and hear that. So on the Zoom is Tanya, and
Hello.
then Lisa Levy is on the top, and Leslie is in there as well. She's on the bottom there. So I'm not sure which one is going to kick it off, but it's yours. So thank you for being here.
It will not surprise you that I'm going to kick us off. So thank you so much for having us. I'm Lisa Levy-Bush. I'm the Chief Communications Officer for the Foothill Gold Line Construction Authority. And if you want to skip to the next slide, I'm going to give a real quick update for everybody. You have been all living with this project now for almost 4 years. Major construction started in July of 2020, and the project is now over 85% complete as of this month. Through that time, we've been able to complete all the grade crossings where the train is crossing at street level. We've been able to build all the 19 bridges, renovate some existing bridges. We've been able to complete all the track work, purchase all the real estate we needed, and very recently complete the train control system, which is what helps make the train actually operate and run on the system. So all of those very important and key activities are 100% complete at this point. We're over 90% complete with power system installation, and we are over almost 70% complete with stations. Glendora was the first station to start construction and is the most complete, I think, of all of the stations. But over the next 7 months, a little less than that, as we complete this project, all of the remaining activities will be checked off, and we are on time and on budget to turn the project over to Metro in the first week of January of 2025, so less than 7 months from now. So with that, I'm going to introduce Tanya Petsoris, and she is our station and architectural design manager. She'll go over what the station elements are going to be, what the landscaping plan is, and then hand it over to Leslie Elwood, who is our art program manager and oversees all of the art program for the authority. So with that, I will turn it over to Tanya.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us here today. So we can move to the next slide. This slide shows the station site plan, and in yellow, that's where the Gold Line station platform will be, in between Vermont and Glendora Avenue. There's 2 station entrances marked by the yellow circles, one at grade on the west side, and then the one on the east side is a pedestrian undercrossing that goes under the freight track. The green arrows show the pedestrian connection from downtown Glendora Avenue. And then the parking is on the south side. That's going to be a new at-grade parking facility. The dash line shows a pedestrian connection that can also be shared safely with bicyclists. We made that wide enough so that bikes can also access the station area. And there will be a new signal for Glendora at Vermont and Ada for the safety of vehicles and pedestrians. And so that's an overview of the station area. Oh, I'll also talk about the renderings and the images. So the image on the bottom is an aerial photo of the station platform. There are 2 ticketing canopies at each end, and then, which is a custom glass pattern. And then on the boarding platform is a canopy that covers 50% of the boarding area. The rendering shows some of the artwork that Leslie will talk about later in the presentation, as well as the canopies. And each entrance will be marked by what Metro calls a station pin, which you can see by the letter M. It's a post, and it will also have the station name on it. So there will be one at the Vermont Ada entrance, and then one marking the entrance over at Glendora Avenue. Next slide, please. This slide shows some of the station elements. On the boarding canopy, each station will have the city name in stainless steel letters that will be uplit at night. So on the right side of the screen, you can see the font for Glendora. Each city selected the font that they would like their city name to be shown in on the canopies. Other station elements will be fare gates at each end of the platform. So you'll buy your ticket in the ticketing areas and then enter through the fare gates to access the boarding platform. This platform will have lighting, sort of pedestrian lighting, information signs, CCTVs, and there will be safety signage and safety elements such as tactile pavers. Next slide. This shows the landscaping plan in the parking area. So the green circles are trees throughout the site, and the green areas are an understory of low shrubs. The beige area is the pedestrian walkway, so will be enhanced with concrete pavers. There will also be pedestrian lighting in all these areas for safety. There's over at the west entrance at Ada, Vermont is the bike parking. And there will also be station artwork located at each entrance as well as the platform. The parking entrance is at Vermont. And then the circle leading from Vermont going horizontally shows the pickup and drop off area. And let's see, I think that's it for this slide. This shows the landscaping palette. It's a mix of oaks and some ornamental drought tolerant trees throughout the site. They'll be in the parking area as well as the pedestrian walkways. The shrubs are a mix of drought tolerant, low growing shrubs. They cannot grow taller than 36 inches for safety reasons and are low maintenance. So there's a preference for native plants. And the irrigation controllers are also weather-based. So it's a sustainability measure. And next slide, please. One of the things we really took time in designing is the pedestrian undercrossing. So up at the top left corner shows the portal entrance, which will have custom lights on either side and tile work. The tiles are custom. They were designed by the same graphic artist that did the wall patterns, Christy Benston. And so there will be tile work in the pedestrian undercrossing. And then the elevation on the right shows the custom concrete pattern, which you can also see in the photos below. And there'll be accent lights throughout the walkway, and as well as some band of tile at the top. The photos at the bottom show, construction photos, so you can see how this site is developing. They've been taken a while ago, so each day there's new progress happening, but this gives you an idea of what the site will start to look like. And then there will also be a roll-up security door at each end of the pedestrian undercrossing that is will go up and down every day, and it also is remotely controlled by Metro when they need to raise it or lower it. Next slide. These are some other elements that you will see in the site. There will be shelters in the pickup drop-off area. We will also have secure bike parking that will be, you need a card to access the bike shelter that is a Metro program. And if you were not part of the bike program, then there will also be a canopy with racks that you can easily access. There are pay kiosks. Currently, the parking price is $3 to park at the stations. And so you'll be able to use these kiosks to pay when you're leaving. The parking area will be have a picket fence that's 6 feet tall around the perimeter. And there will be, this is an example of the lighting that's also the same lighting that's on the platform will enhance the pedestrian walkways throughout the parking site. There will be emergency telephones in the parking site, as well as bollards at each end of the pedestrian walkway on the Vermont side and on the Glendora side, as well as the pickup and drop-off area. And then at the entrance, there will be a parking counter sign that will allow visitors to know how many parking spaces are available. Next slide. So now I'll turn it over to Leslie, who will share the wonderful art that's going to be happening at the station.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Leslie Elwood. I'm the Public Art Program Manager for the Gold Line. And I'm really excited to show you the progress of what we have going on. As many of you may know, Michael Hillman, a local artist, lived in the community. I think he born and raised there. And he is a professor of ceramics at Citrus College. And Michael was selected many, many years ago. He's been on this project almost, I would say, 18 years by the time we actually get to dedication. But he was extremely thoughtful in really bringing home many of the visual landmarks that are characteristic of Glendora. And he also worked with us in helping to pick the Glendora signage that was on the canopy. So I know Michael is really looking forward to the final stretch of getting his artwork in. Next slide. This is Michael in the studio at Citrus College. He basically has two art elements that are going to be as part of the station, and this is the first one. These are hand-painted tiles that are based on citrus, the bougainvillea, the important fig, the lemons, rainbird, an abstracted rainbird image, and there are basically 14 tile bases that are located on the platform. In each one, although there's 7 designs, the tiles are created in a way in which they can be turned and thus able to be shown in a different format, even though they're basically 7 patterns. There's 2 varieties of each pattern. Next slide. In addition to that, Michael has just beautifully crafted 8 custom concrete art columns. The art columns are, Michael, you can see in the upper left-hand corner, these are completely unique. Michael actually crafted the crowns that are at the top in a full-scale clay model, which he did an absolutely beautiful job in. And the fabricator then scanned that and added that motif at the top for each one of the columns. There are 2 columns located in each plaza. So there's 2 on the west and 2 on the east. And then the additional 4 columns are all located on the platform. And each one of the platforms kind of mimics the same visual color palette and subject matter with these beautiful glass tesseract tile that will be in that sort of upper, half portion below the custom capital. And so you see on the bottom left, samples of these some of the imagery that will be included, and these are beautiful Italian style glass tiles. Each one of the columns in the plaza areas will be illuminated at night. And then, of course, there is a certain light level that exists on the platform. And so you'll really be able to see the brilliance of the color of the glass and beautiful shading. The bottom pattern of the columns is really to mimic this idea of the rolling hills of Glendora. And then, of course, the top is really related to the citrus industry and the history of that. Next slide. This is a more detailed shot with some details on the left-hand side of the canopy tile bases. As part of our program, Metro is responsible for the maintenance of these. Tile is a really great material. It is something that can be easily maintained. It can be broken, but Michael is providing, as per his contract, additional pieces of each piece. So if something needs to be replaced, that is something that they can do. In addition to that, he's required to submit 2 additional panels for just long-term maintenance. Each piece is unique. Each piece is hand painted. It's going to be an absolutely beautiful and colorful station. And I really feel, these pieces, between these pieces and the art columns, that these are sort of like the landmark as part of the art program. Every station's artwork is unique. And so when people arrive at the Glendora station, and they'll be able to easily see these and the platform art columns from the train, and that will sort of welcome them into the history of Glendora. Next slide. I am now going to turn this back over to Lisa, who's going to wrap this up for us.
So we're happy to answer any questions. I just thought I would take this opportunity to let everybody know of some current construction that's taking place in Glendora. I'm sure people are aware, but the intersection of Foothill and Elwood, the full intersection, is closed this week and through next Monday. Once that reopens, I believe Elwood will be closed north and south of Foothill, but Foothill will reopen. We also are currently grinding the rail throughout the entire 9-mile project, and that's going to continue through the end of June. And so you may hear that happening in Glendora over the next few weeks. And then you should continue just to expect intermittent lane closures on Lone Hill and on Route 66 for another few weeks ahead. And just really want to tell you guys how much we appreciate everyone's patience over the last 4 years as we built this project. We're getting very, very close. This coming summer, in the weeks and months ahead, we will start testing trains on the system and finding where there are things that need to be fixed or glitches, and correcting those as we get ready to turn this project over the first week of January 2025 to Metro. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for offering us this opportunity, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you to each of you. We appreciate this. Questions, Karen, we'll start with you.
And I don't know if you know the answer to this question. It may be more of a Metro question. But yesterday when I was at the APU station, I saw the installation of a trailer that was called the Royal Throne. And I did not partake of that facility myself, but I heard from someone else that it was very fancy. So I didn't know if that's just a temporary installation there, or if that's something that's being looked at all the stations going forward. So
I don't know the answer. I'll get back to you. I do know that Metro is trying them out. I believe I've heard at their board meetings. So I'm happy to hear that there's one nearby on our corridor. But I can find out if it's a permanent thing or how long it'll be there for. I'll
I
get
was
back
just
to you.
curious, especially since that topic has come up tonight, that I know that Mr. Thompson, especially as it pertains to parks and other public facilities, has asked about restrooms. And so I thought
That is
if
true.
this was
I-
a trend that maybe he was influencing, we would know. So,
Well,
thank you.
our board does meet next week. So Lisa, I'll raise that
Hopefully I'll have an answer for you
issue.
by then.
So you can you can just know it's gonna come up. So thank you, Kieran. Michael, anything?
Thank you, man. Hi, Lisa. One question I noticed on your map. Are you still going to be putting in the kiss and ride on Ada on the north side of the street near Vermont?
Yes, I believe we are.
Because it was not on your map. Do you have any idea when you'll start that process?
Tanya, do you know that?
No, I know that our engineers have been working with the city to coordinate the design of that. So I don't know when that will go in.
All right. Thank you. Maybe we can update the map so it's going to be going in so people can know there's going to be a kiss and ride there.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you. We
Thank
can
you.
do that.
Gary, anything? David?
No, thank you, ladies, for the report, and can't wait to write it. Let's go.
Thank you once again for taking time to show us what's going on. It's really happening, and I think it's going to be a beautiful experience for people who ride it and stop here and get off. It's really going to show well. It's going to pop. It's going to have a level of class that is better than most. So, ladies, thank you once again for taking your time. And Tanya, I know that you're on the west side, so this was an easy thing for you
thank
to
you.
do. And
Thank
Leslie,
you.
I don't know where you are, but
Yeah,
you,
I'm in
might
Redondo
be there
Beach.
too. So,
Thank you for.
all right. Well, thank you. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
everybody.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. We will now move on to item 3. Mr. Michael Sled is here. It's a public hearing to consider a resolution approving the report and confirming a diagram and assessment for the city streetlight maintenance district number 1 for fiscal year 2024. I will now declare a public hearing is open, and Michael, you are the first one to speak. Thank you, sir.
So good evening, Mayor and Council. As mentioned, my first presentation tonight regards a public hearing to consider resolutions approving the engineer's report and confirming a diagram and assessment for streetlight maintenance district number 1 for FY 24-25. So the district includes almost 3,000 streetlights with 90% owned by SCE and the remainder owned by the city. In 2006, a resolution was adopted following a Proposition 218 ballot proceeding that allowed for the maximum assessment to be adjusted annually as high as the preceding year's consumer price index change for the Los Angeles, Long Beach, Anaheim area for all urban consumers. For this past year, the change was 4.03%. Rates per EBU from last year and this year are shown here. Multifamily parcels are assessed based on the citywide average dwelling unit density per acre compared to single-family dwellings. Developed non-residential parcels are assessed based on the citywide average size relative to single-family parcels, and undeveloped parcels by their nature receive less benefits than other parcel types and primarily just security benefits without access or traffic benefits, and so are assessed at 1/3 the rate of developed non-residential parcels. Parcels in the district are further divided into 2 benefit zones, with Zone B including those parcels in gated communities served only by public perimeter lighting, and the remainder of the district is included in Zone A. Zone B parcels receive significantly less benefit and are assessed at 5% of the rate of similar property types in Zone A. Numbers shown are rounded to the nearest cent. District funds cover a portion of maintaining public street lighting costs on arterial roads, as well as all public street lights located on neighborhood roads. They are not used for private streetlights, such as those owned by homeowners associations within gated communities, the general benefit portion of arterial street lighting, public safety lights atop traffic signals, or the traffic signals themselves. Shown here is the overall budget picture for the district. District funds not expended in any given year are transferred to the district reserve fund for future district needs. Total costs and amounts levied are shown here. The district is expected to operate at a surplus with an estimated reserve balance of $573,187.21 at the end of FY 24-25. Tonight's public hearing and the adoption of the two resolutions before you are the last steps before submitting the assessments to Los Angeles County before the August deadline and provide a final opportunity to receive public testimony regarding the proposed levies.
Michael, thank you. I will go to Madam Clerk to see if there's anybody that wants to specifically talk about this within the public hearing. Do you have any cards?
I do not, Mayor.
Okay. With that, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to council on any questions. Michael, any questions? Gary? Karen? David?
Yes, I have a couple. The report references the style of light, sodium vapor, mercury vapor. Yet I recall Edison came through and replaced all the heads with LEDs. Yet those aren't referenced, and I would hope that they're giving us a longer run time and maybe a reduced cost of operation. Is that reflected in this report?
I don't know that they've replaced all of our lights.
They advertised they did. Of course, they advertised they did the LEDs when they replaced the poles too, so.
Yeah. I'd have to compare the numbers. We are operating at a surplus, and then the surplus this year I could go back and reference is larger than it was last year. So it does seem that costs are decreasing to some extent, or at least staying static relative to the increase in assessment.
Okay. Maybe we can look into that and get back at a later time. Thank you.
Yeah.
No other questions.
Okay, and I have nothing to add, so I will entertain a motion on this item. Let me get back on my screen here. Oh, I don't have a screen, so anyway.
I made the motion, Karen seconded it.
Okay, yeah, my screen is blank. So motion has been made by Michael, seconded by Karen. Please vote, and Madam Clerk, will you call the roll call?
Councilmember Alowis,
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Friedel,
Yes.
Mayor Thompson,
Yes.
motion carries 5-0.
Okay. We will do the same exercise again, except the resolution is all the same, except this is the landscape maintenance district. Remember, the previous one was a street light. This is the landscape.
Yeah.
Something different. So
Different and
Michael
exciting.
Flett is going to report again.
So
Michael?
good evening again. As mentioned, this will be a public hearing to consider resolutions approving the engineer's report and confirming a diagram and assessment for landscape maintenance district number 1 for FY 24-25. So the district consists of 7 zones separately levied to help fund maintenance and repair of the improvements generally described above, including contract services, administrative personnel support, electricity, water, and administrative fees. In 2003, a resolution was adopted following a Proposition 218 ballot proceeding, which allowed for 6 of the 7 zones to be adjusted annually by the March-to-March Consumer Price Index change for the Los Angeles, Long Beach, Anaheim area for all urban consumers in an amount not to exceed 5% per year. This past year, the change was 4.03%. Maps and lists of the assessed parcels in each zone can be found in the engineer's report included in your packets. Shown here are the levies per EBU for this past year and next year for each zone. All EBUs in this district are single parcels. Shown here are current total levies that will be collected in FY 24-25 for each zone, as well as the total maintenance costs. Zones operating at a deficit are subsidized by other funds such as the general fund. Tonight's public hearing and adoption of the 2 resolutions before you are the last steps before submitting the assessments to Los Angeles County before the August deadline and provides a final opportunity to receive public testimony regarding the proposed levies.
Michael, thank you. And we are having a public hearing on this matter, and I will ask the same question again. Do we have any speaker cards regarding this?
We do not, Mayor.
We do not. I will close the public hearing and bring it back to council. Who did I start with last? Michael? Anything? Okay. Gary? Karen? David?
No, thank you.
Okay, I will call for a motion to.
I'll move items 1 and 2.
All right. Motion has been made by Michael, seconded by Karen. Please vote. And the clerk can call the roll call.
And we did close public testimony. Now for oral roll call, Councilmember Alowitz,
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Friedel,
Yes.
Mayor Thompson.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank y'all.
Michael, thank you. I appreciate this. All right. Item 5, a public hearing to consider a resolution adopting the budget for the city of Glendora for fiscal year 2024 to 25, adopting the investment policy for fiscal year 2024-25, and delegating the investment authority and determining and establishing the GAN appropriations limit for fiscal year 24-25. This is a public hearing, and Mr. Kyle Johnson, please, we welcome you. Thanks, Kyle.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and City Council members. All the items that the mayor read just now are before you tonight. So the budget, the investment policy, and the GAN limit. So the budget was prepared as a balanced budget overall before you tonight. It continues to address community programs or provide community programs, provide for maintenance to the city and infrastructure improvements throughout the city. The strategic plan is always at the forefront of our budget preparation. It's continued from the 2-year budget that we adopted last June. This budget includes adjustments as they've become known to us during the last fiscal year that we didn't know about when we first prepared the 2-year budget. Those things would be like the recent assessments, water rate study, make sure we have those assumptions accurate in the budget, as well as recent agreements with for example, like the Glendora Unified School District, make sure that we have appropriate staff and costs in our budget for those. It also includes items for employee workforce modernization to make sure we address employee retention and career growth. So moving on to the general fund is balanced. It's balanced with a subsidy from the Measure E fund, which in the amount of $4.9 million. The general fund was significantly impacted by a hardening insurance market this year. Our city's premiums increased by about $1 million. Additionally, in the general fund, it includes positions for the retention and career growth in the departments of community development and public works, and primarily the building divisions for building inspection and construction inspection, as well as various technician items. And we'll go over those in more detail later in the presentation. Employee additional part-time hours for park improvements for Louis Pompey, since we can offer more programs there with the recent improvements, as well as our responsibilities with GUSD for maintaining the field or field attendants, for overseeing the fields and the hours that the city operates the fields. As noted here, Measure E continues to provide services to the community, provides for 9 police officers, provides for the Recreation and Human Services homelessness program, and for economic development, as well as meeting the general fund reserve policy. Next slide, please. Thank you. All right. So this is the general fund forecast. It's quite small, but if you go online, look at the budget document, it shows that we meet our 45% reserve criteria for the general fund, which basically allows the general fund to operate for almost a 6-month period in an emergency, whether that be an economic emergency or a natural disaster or any other type of emergency that the city may face. And overall, there are stable increases in revenues and expenditures. There are additional notes for both the general fund forecast and the Measure E forecast that detail the assumptions that the city made in the budget document. As noted earlier, the general fund or the Measure E fund continues to provide for community programs in the areas of public safety and homelessness, as well as meet the general fund reserve requirements with transfers out to capital projects, pension stabilization, as well as other post-employment benefits, and addressing any funds needed in internal service funds that provide for technology, vehicles, as well as our workers' comp and general liability insurance. So in our other funds, we have special revenue funds, which are restricted and must be used for a certain cause, like Proposition A, Proposition C, which are transit oriented. We have gas tax, which would be used on streets. So these funds continue to provide for streets, parks, and facilities improvements and operations. Additionally, we have capital projects fund, which provides for facilities and park improvements. Debt services, primarily the 2019 pension obligation bond, which continues to save the city money with the anticipated about $1 million per year when we issued it. Enterprise funds are our water operations and capital projects fund, providing for water conservation programs as well as the programs needed and services needed to get water from our plants up to the residents and customers, and provide for CIP. For fiscal year 25, the water fund does include the bond issuance of $15 million as presented to the council with the rate assessment and rate study and infrastructure assessment in November of 2023. As the city's going to evaluate the market and see what rates are like to issue that and continue to move forward with capital projects. The internal service funds are the ones I mentioned earlier. They provide for vehicles that the city purchases, technology for the city, as well as our general liability and workers' comp insurance. And that's where we see the impact in our premiums, primarily in our general liability program. So next we have our water so here's all the detail. So next we have our water forecast. This is the forecast for both operations and capital projects. It assumes new rates cover operations and contributes to capital projects, as well as you can see on line 18, the assumed $15 million bond issuance, and I think approximately $8 million of capital projects funded is the result of the new rate structure and bond issuance. So next we'll move into personnel. So we have 3 job classes that we added: senior building inspector, I guess should be updated to senior building inspector, senior permit technician, and public works inspector technician or trainee. So these allow for career growth in the areas of building and permit review. Primarily, we're looking for if people are leaving the construction environment, looking to come into the city and have that expertise to help us grow in positions that are difficult for the city to fill. The positions that impact our total full-time equivalent count are in the part-time area. They're for field attendants related to the recent GUSD MOU that was approved, making sure we have people there when it's the city's responsibility to monitor the fields, as well as additional programming at Louis Pompey. All right, the final budget item of this presentation is the GAN limit, which is basically a limit on what this city expenditures should be, primarily within general fund. That's why it uses the general fund revenues as a measurement criteria. The city is only at 28% of the GAN limit, so we are far under the GAN limit. We've never been close, so we don't have to worry about going over the limit and any of repercussions there. I would be very concerned if we were anticipating spending $120 million out of the general fund. So the investment policy, with state law, the city is required to bring the investment policy for adoption annually by the city council. At this time, there are no recommended changes from the policy that was brought before council last year. We reviewed the local agency investment guidelines that the state puts out, and there wasn't anything that infected our policy that we need to address at this time. All right, the recommendation is for council to approve these various resolutions, approving the budget, adopting the GAN appropriations limit, adopting the investment policy, delegating authority to the city treasurer, and amending the authorized position, control listing, as well as the classification and compensation plan for the city. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Kyle. And since this is a public hearing, I will once again ask if there's anybody that wants to speak to this. And if there is, do you have any yellow cards, Madam Clerk?
I do not, Mayor.
Okay. I will close our public hearing and just indicate a couple things before we all weigh in. This is a big time within the life of our city. A budget is a roadmap, and we are so blessed to have amazing staff who keep us within those roadmaps. And we are healthy, we are strong, we are a very stable city, and that cannot be said for everybody. And so kudos to our entire team for the great job that you guys do. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
With that, Karen, any questions? Did I not close the hearing? So I will close the hearing and bring it back to, council. And now I'll go to Karen.
Oh, I was waiting. I didn't know if you needed to do something based upon
Yeah.
that note, so that's why I
No.
was waiting. No, thank you, Kyle. I was a little disappointed. I was waiting for a dad joke tonight, but besides that, you did an outstanding job. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, Michael, questions?
Al, you and Maureen, the rest of the team did a great job. And, this is two-sided budget. So that's a lot to go through. We can't catch everything, but we do our level best. I just have one question though, on the long-term liability for CalPERS. I didn't see it here, but I might not have looked hard enough because I started to fall asleep halfway through.
So just, what is it? Or, so actually, that's one of my notes for a future presentation tonight. But so recently, last time when we were here to present our audit last year, we had a net asset, right? So CalPERS had performed so well that the investment return on our valuation provided a net asset. We've actually now switched and we're at a net liability. I believe it's around, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I know it's switched because it went from a 21% return on investment to a loss of 6.8%. Or 6.1%. And so that changed our asset to a liability just in 1 year. So while we thought we were super funded, and really going to be great for years to come, not the case. It changes just like that. Although if everything holds and CalPERS makes it through the end of the year, right now they are trending to meet their rate of investment return, which is 6.8%. They're a little bit over it, I think around 7%.
So it'll be on
It's done.
par, you think, by the end of the year?
Yeah, that's what it looks like, but I can't.
The council member, I believe your actual question is there an expense this year for it? Is that your actual question? And not just on the liability side, which is on the financial statement side, but you're talking about, is there additional expense to the city because of their investment methodology?
What's the net change from last year to this year?
So two different net changes is, as Kyle was doing a great job explaining, we have a liability side, which is a financial statement entry, and then we have an actual cost, which is increases in our CalPERS rate. So in the 5-year plans, especially in Measure E and water, those are calculated into personnel costs.
Mhm.
And just to make matters more confusing, as Kyle was indicating, they do it 2 years in arrears.
Mhm.
Right.
So this layered cake gets added into or subtracted based on what's going on, but it's all added to the personnel costs.
Right. Thank you, Kyle.
You're
That's all the questions I have.
Michael, thank you. Gary.
I just want to ask the question where, everybody in California is dealing with insurance issues right now. Could you speak briefly on what we're doing to try to address, trying to keep our insurance costs under control?
Yeah, so we've looked into changing our SIR, which is essentially the deductible, as most of us know it. Do we increase it? Right now it's at about $250,000, which sounds like a lot, but I think the average claim probably is right around that amount, if not more. We've looked up, I think, to 750 or $1 million, and that only saved us, I think it was about like maybe $40,000 or something really minimal on our premium, that it wasn't worth the additional risk we were going to be exposed to pay out of our own pocket. Additionally, looking at different insurance joint powers authorities, so like other groups of cities that or agencies that have banded together, what rates do they, what rates could we get there if we did that? Potentially, if we may need to go out on our own and be insured, self-insured, for the whole amount, and we would look at what our risk would be there. So we haven't made any final decision yet, but those are all the areas that we're looking to mitigate, or ways that we're looking to mitigate our risk. And some of the, I guess, the insurance market has even gone where we're not even looking at pools that, or providers that are in the US. We're getting better rates and better options from rates outside of the US. So international markets are looking to insure.
Yeah, I would just say, I think it's suffice to say that the average American, especially if you live in California or Florida, has seen incredible rate increases on their insurance premiums. And it's rare that the city is able to talk about the city as it sort of correlates with the household. And in this specific case, we can do it really well, where our insurance premiums are going up because of what's going on in our marketplace, and that's cities, that's aging infrastructure, that's people filing civil rights violations, which means a variety of aspects, but it's in some cases a catch-all for a number of different potential situations. And so we are in a pool, as Kyle mentioned, with other jurisdictions, and the pool's losses have been higher lately, but so have other pools across the state of California, from something called PRISM to Cal JPIA. We have ICRMA. So the city will undertake, just to try to summarize, sort of a three-pronged approach. We'll look at what it costs to pull out of the current joint powers authority that we have, if there's an exit cost, and what that looks like. We'll look at what it would be to be self-insured, meaning we would go out to the marketplace ourselves based on our own experience, buy layers of additional coverage, and take a measured risk like we do up front. To give this body some idea, I think is in the details in your budget presentation, it costs us about $3 million a year for our insurance premiums, and that does not include the $250,000 that we'd pay up front per claim. That's a magnitude of about 100% increase over the last 3 years, Kyle. Is that about right?
Yeah.
So, if we had in our book insurance premiums skyrocketing through the roof was in your playbook of financial hurdles the city would have to climb, congratulations, you're a winner. But, it's one of those things that comes up. Kyle and Marie have begun that, and suffice to say, Councilmember, we'll be back before this body talking about options and how we mitigate those costs moving forward. But we're feeling very much the same pain as homeowners, especially in our community in the foothills and high fire hazard severity areas, what those homeowners are experiencing too.
Appreciate it. And one other question, are we still getting any funds from the American Rescue Plan?
No, so we've gotten all the funds that we would get there. We actually got them all, I think, last year. We've just, accounting speak, we've just recognized them this year. So until we used them, we couldn't recognize them. Like, they were a balance sheet entry.
But moving forward, there are no.
But there's nothing else for us to claim.
Okay, my only questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Gary. David?
Yeah, thank you, Kyle, and the entire finance team. Amazing. And when our neighbors ask how you're doing, and we say, well, we're balanced because we have good leadership. Thank you. I do have a question, and it's not to you, it's to this body. We've done some increase of employment staffing to accommodate some other areas and provide services. I think that we need to take a serious look at our quality of life issues that are surrounding us and encroaching upon our community in the form of vendors that are not licensed, vendors that are taking up camp on sidewalks and things. And happening in hours that we don't always have coverage. And I can respect that. So what I'm asking is I'd like to see us increase the priority to address that, but also through this budget, see if we can't amend it some way to fund the increase of services and staffing for our community preservation group and code enforcement group to be able to address the infractors that are imposing upon our business members and business partners that try to do it correctly and have the big box charges, the insurance, the liabilities, the payrolls, pay their sales tax, pay their license fees, and then get to drive down the street and see the third world circus that is setting up shop all up and down our sidewalks. I'm sorry, I think that's wrong. And I think we as a body should address taking that as a priority to give the tools to our enforcement team to be able to address that and get the people in compliance or get them gone. So do I have any support in that area? I think
Actually,
that's
David,
important.
if I could ask a question,
Please.
are you considering addressing just a certain segment of community preservation as code enforcement? Are you thinking about addressing just a certain segment of it, or are you thinking about trying to address it more throughout the entire community?
Well, I think through the community as it presents itself, we do have a couple of specific corridors that are opportune for these unauthorized businesses, not partners. But to give them that look, those are focused on certain times of day and weekends and things, and we're not able to always staff to address those and to contact those people. I'd like to give the police department those tools to be able to address that and raise that priority so they can, in fact, go after that and address it.
The chief has stepped up to the podium.
We asked the chief to come forward in case there's any questions of this body of the chief for hours and operations. I think it's a great opportunity. And just one thing for the council consideration as you're having this discussion, which is a great policy decision for the council, is if we do decide to allocate funding, it has to come from somewhere. And so if there's an area you want to look at, specifically projects or something else, this expense comes from our general fund. So as you're contemplating that, you don't have to have an answer if that's the direction you move forward, but something to consider is we'll have to take something away from something else.
What is that expense guesstimation?
Depends what this body decides is a priority and what it wants to have.
Is that including more bodies, if you will, or a policy change, or all of the above? And how many full-time
Well, I would say
employees are you looking for?
priority request directive, if you will, and as a result from that, recognizing I can't say, hey, here's your tool, go fix it with that. Obviously, the experts would need to respond back with the recommendation of how they could achieve that.
So are you asking for staff to come back to us at a later time to come up with a plan for our consideration?
If so, but then obviously we have some budget considerations that we
But that
need
would be
to
part of their
address.
staff report.
It
the
would
plan
be,
back.
yes.
But I think we need to identify exactly what we're concerned about.
Yes.
I was wondering, since Chief is up here, maybe you could address as far as in particular with street vendors. Has that become an issue for PD yet? And if it has, what, how big of an issue it is?
Sure. Yeah, just to hit on a few points that were brought up. So we have community preservation that runs out of the police department, and just by coincidence, we have Captain Shelley Gold and Captain Chris Davio, and also our support services supervisor, Mark Archibald, who's here as well. So we have been looking into this problem. We've received complaints from the board and then looked at how many community complaints that we've had on the issue. And then we've been getting together. We meet with Jeff Kugel and his group every week on ordinance type violations like this. And they work together with our community preservation. We pulled stat reports to see how much our community is complaining about these issues. And right now it's not that much. It's not a higher priority as we see calls coming in for service for it. Captain Chris Davio has been instrumental in researching our current policies and codes and pushing them out to our sworn police officers. But we're trying to balance that with not bogging our police officers down with something like that when we want them to do more safety related investigation, policing type things. We're kind of in a transition period with our community preservation officers, and they have only been working Monday through Friday because of training and schedules and different employee reasons that we have for that, but we're expanding their schedule so they can cover weekends more when the vendors are a problem. And then we've also worked with a planning department to look at the Glendora Municipal Code and see if there's some improvements we can make in that area. So we've been constantly evaluating this over the last few months and looking for solutions and really evaluating how big the problem is and trying to balance that with our other needs. Honestly, there are other programs that I think are more vital in the police department to fund and not this one. I wouldn't ever turn down any money that the council wants to send my way, but there are some bigger priorities in the department that we need to focus on. And I think with shifting some of the hours and continuing to meet with planning at the direction of our city manager and continuing to have these meetings and look at solutions to the problems, I think we can move forward with some of these solutions that would not talk about adding a whole nother code enforcement officer, which also would bog down our hiring process as well when we're trying to get other more essential safety positions filled in the police department.
Question I have for Adam, in our current ordinance, because the state of California has made a lot of changes the last few years when it comes to street vending. Are our current ordinances up to date with what we can and cannot enforce?
Yeah, our ordinances are up to date. I know we do have quite a bit of, I see a lot of finger pointing, so I'm just making sure I'm not missing anything. All right. A lot of air traffic control happening back in the back of the room. So yes, our ordinances are up to date, so to speak. We've actually met more recently, as the chief indicated, to talk about what other cities do that potentially we don't. And maybe it is increasing the distance between a corner that a vendor can operate in, looking at repainting some of the red zones so there's a clear visual, so when staff's driving by, there's a clear articulation. The mayor pro tem actually points out a number of things that we've tried to take a look at, and one of them is hours, and there's 2 community preservation officers. And so I think, as the chief wisely said, he'll never turn away money, because why would a department head do that? But I think one of the underlying conversations, and Mayor Pro Tem, I don't want to speak for you, so please correct me if I'm wrong, is more of for many years, we've been a reactionary body as it relates to community preservation, community complaints, issues that come to council, people that come in. A number of you on this body have said, hey, if there's an issue, come talk about it. And sometimes it's code related, sometimes it's parking related, sometimes it's peacock related, sometimes it's you name it. So we are truly more reactionary than proactive. And if community preservation is to make a transition to more of a proactive body, it is both a change in methodology and staffing. There is both of those components there. And so I don't want to put any words in your mouth there.
I respect that, and I understand that.
So I think one of the larger conversations we're going to have, in addition to what the chief may tell you is a bigger priority for the police department, is do we want to look at some of these methodologies that we have and be more of a proactive code enforcement body, which would definitely include street vendors, including flowers and illegal vending shops that do pop up.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that? If you have a street vendor, they have to be licensed, correct? And if they're not
Sure.
licensed, what do you do?
Chief, you here to take us through the myriad of ways that we get enforcement?
So it's in our municipal code, and the finger pointing was for Jeff in the back row. He's just been researching our policies and comparing them against other cities and looking at different things we can do. But yes, they have to be licensed. They have to be wearing ID on them, which includes a picture. We've discussed a lot of different options, but yes, if they're not licensed and they're vending, we issue them citations, and
Can you move them along or not? Or you just have to write them a citation and that's it?
we write them a citation. They're not allowed to vend once we write them a citation and they're not licensed. If we drive away and they come back, I mean, that is a possibility. We don't on the first offenses, It's not something we're going to take them into custody and they're not going to be allowed to vend, but we'll issue them a citation, make them leave. And then if we come back, we can issue them more citations, and then there's more process that goes along with it down the line. But as with most things we do, it's kind of a process. It's not something that we can come out and just immediately solve the problem.
So if an officer goes and cites them, can they call auxiliary to babysit them until they leave?
If we have as auxiliaries available, but then it becomes a staffing issue. If we're having a problem where there's numerous vendors out, and typically those happen on the weekends. Mother's Day was really big. Actually, Memorial Day, we keep an eye on it. Memorial Day was not as big as we thought it was going to be. But yeah, we typically go out there if we have the time. If we don't have other priority calls and safety calls that are happening, we'll go out there with usually a few officers on the weekend and check every vendor and issue citations and clean up. And sometimes we come back and check, and sometimes we're not available to come back and check. So we just try to do the best we can with what we have. Did that answer your question? Mostly.
Mostly.
Jeff, did you have something that you wanted to add to it?
I just wanted to add a couple little
Yeah,
things in just the idea of all the different ways we've been looking at this. Jeff's been a big part of it. We've also, Captain Stabio's taken it to our Traffic Safety Advisory Committee to look at different ideas, red curbs, sidewalk areas. We've also taken it to our community service officer at UOLA through Captain Gold about CPTED type solutions, crime prevention through environmental design. Are we going to do landscaping or changes to sidewalks or areas to make it better for us for the enforcement? And then, I mean, Jeff's researched a lot of the different codes that other cities have gone to, but that also comes with a lot of liability in some areas, because the cities that have, our neighboring communities that have got a little bit more aggressive have also received a lot of lawsuits and a lot of liability over it. So we're trying to balance those competing factors.
I'm sure I'll just kind of briefly just kind of talk a little bit about the code that we do have. So as I think it was Adam mentioned, or Councilmember Boyer mentioned, that a few years ago, there was state law that changed that required us to update our municipal code to be in compliance with state law to have a street vending or sidewalk vending program. So the city back in 2019 adopted an ordinance, to do that. And so the planning division within the community development department is the division that receives those applications, processes them, and then issues a permit. And in addition to that, each vendor is supposed to have a permit and have it on there themselves. And there are certain, ways that they're supposed to operate, not operate. And I know one of the biggest concerns that when we've been meeting with the police department and how they operate is, especially the flower vendors, is that they're, primarily on Grand Avenue, and they're flagging down and they're selling to vehicles. Though that is not allowed under the current standards. So we've been looking at, that's an enforcement issue. However, I would mention, because the state law protects the street vendors under a set of guidelines, that the city is also limited in the state law how you can fine and enforce it as well. So it's a matter of, how aggressively do you want to be? As again, I think the chief indicated, some cities have been, that can attract or that can cause problems. The city doesn't want to over enforce and risk violating the state law or its own ordinance, but we want to make sure that street vending is safe, that you're not creating issues in the public right of way. You're not flagging down vehicles, selling to them. And so that's been the main issue that we've been working to try to address.
Well, it seems like staff is starting to noodle and think about this, and it might be wise if Adam, if you would give us guidance, if we would refer what the Mayor Pro Tem has asked for, which I certainly support, something back to staff to coalesce what you guys are already working on to bring back something to us in the next.
So I think the issue really needs in staff, the area we need direction is we can look at ordinances all day long. We can make additional rule changes and we can make it more difficult to do some of those things. But at the end of the day, there is still potentially a staffing conversation to
Sure.
do some of that work. And while I believe that the chief and the two captains and Jeff can help further that by changing staff operations, there's a larger conversation that this council's had, and it's in your strategic plan as well, is do you want to be more proactive or not? I think the mayor pro tem is using this because it is a visible example of something that happens, but I don't think this is the only issue that the mayor pro tem may have on code compliance. And so I think one of the larger conversations for us to come back is, I don't think it's a good use of staff resources to solve potentially a singular issue when there's a much larger umbrella that we need to look at. While it is important for us to solve those issues, I think the direction staff needs is, do we need to come forward with a model that shows more proactive code enforcement? Or is it you want us to address this one issue? I have a suspicion, and again, not to put words, that it's not just a one issue. This is the latest issue of a greater umbrella. So I think the direction staff would need, we're happy to come back with whatever analysis the city council wants, is do you want a more proactive model or do you want a reactionary model? That's kind of the crux of
I
the
think
issue.
you're right, and I certainly agree with that. Excuse me. I'm not looking for more ordinance. We have tons of that. I'm looking for a proactive and fund the ability to be proactive and address the ordinances that we have in place. I'm not looking to eliminate, I'm looking to get in compliant. And we have a master fee of schedules that all our businesses are going to get addressed with as we move forward in the next year, but we're missing sales tax, we're missing business licenses. It's an unfair business advantage for these people to provide against the people that are trying to do it right. And to the manager's point, yes, it's an overall shift from reactive when the wheel squeaks to we have these ordinances. I think we need a proactive address to address them, or else throw the rule book out.
Right.
Anyway.
Mr. Mayor,
so
yeah, I
my
would
comment is I'm looking to say, I'd love to approve the budget and ask that we make some enhancement to it to be able to facilitate a shift in that priority.
Karen?
Well, I would say right now, based upon the comment that if we give money to one area, we're taking it from another. I, at this time, would not feel comfortable taking money from someone else as I look out at Johnny Geary, as I look at the library. That I don't want to say, oh, we're going to, give it to Mark Archibald and take it away from you. That, I think that it sounds like the police department and Mr. Kugel and several folks have been having this conversation. So I would recommend that they continue having that conversation and that the council at a separate time have a policy issue about reactive, proactive, and all of that. But at the moment, as it relates to the subject that we are to vote on, the budget, I do not feel comfortable making any changes to the budget if it means taking money from one person to give it to another.
Okay.
Well, I can respect that and certainly just would ask if we might make this a priority discussion and looking at, our ordinances for vending are very close, if not right on spot. I don't think there's any change needed. It's matching very closely to a new ordinance that Los Angeles County is rolling out next month, that they have no clue on how they're going to enforce or make compliance for unincorporated areas. They even said that. Get this great tool, we have no clue how we're going to do it. But they spent a year figuring out they had nothing to enforce.
So
but in the
Adam,
pri-
obviously there's been, as is mentioned, conversation
Yeah.
behind the scenes and us. How far along are you on this? And when do you think, let's say, if we wanted to have a report come back to us at a later date on this, just so that we have an idea of this full scope and what we can and can't do and what the liability would be if we did some of the recommendations?
So a lot of the conversation tonight is centered around vendors, but again, I think that's just one aspect of a larger conversation that's here. I think staff will look at coming forward and making recommendations probably sometime after our break that we have as we look at the ordinance. We just have to draft some ordinance changes. I think there's some cleanup and some council policy discussions as relates to that about spacing of vendors and everything. But the fact still remains above and beyond all of that is, as the mayor pro tem mentioned, it's while you know, the police department does a great job. Like most departments, we don't have all the staff that we want in the world, so we have to pick and choose priorities that we do.
Right, but we have to start someplace. We have to start with a discussion, and to do that, it's gonna have to have staff report. So it'd be nice
Yeah,
if you, you know,
I
maybe
still think it's
after
a
the
larger
break-
issue than that, council member. It is a proactive or reactive measure regardless of the situation at hand.
Well, we can parse it out to certain items as opposed to eating the whole elephant at one time.
One of the problems with that is, and one of the issues with code enforcement is trying to make decisions as far as what you enforce and what you can't. We couldn't possibly enforce everything that is on the books because everybody in this room would be cited. Okay, we all have issues at our homes and our businesses and things that we do. So I have always appreciated the 45 years I've lived in town, the fact that this city has not been as proactive as places like Orange County or someplace like Corona. That you know, they come around and they will tag trees and tag where you're parked at in your driveways and go to that extent. I think that we should be addressing each issue as they come up and entrust the police department to deal with them in the way that that they see fit. But at this time, I don't really want to support a change in policy as far as what we have been doing when it comes to code enforcement.
Well,
And David and I have had this conversation privately on a regular basis. We disagree on this thing.
But my recommendation wasn't a change in policy. My recommendation was to have staff to come back on the certain issue. And then we could lead into a bigger conversation if we needed to have a bigger conversation. But we have to start at some places. Issue's not going to necessarily go away.
But that goes back to which issue?
Well, I think we should start with the street vendors at a beginning, and then that would allow us to have a conversation on a wider basis if we want to go there or not. If we want to have across the board enforcement, or we say, no, we just want to be, you know, work on certain issues. Otherwise, we can't have that conversation if we don't have.
Well, if we allow them to continue the conversation they've started and at a future time report back to us on the conclusion they've reached amongst themselves, I think
That was
that
my
would be a good
recommendation.
starting place because, and back to the money issue, because it sounded like, you know, if we say to the chief, okay, here's money for a new hat, and he's saying, I don't want a new hat, I want to buy new shoes. So I think to allow, you know, the department heads to tell us what it is that they think they need to do the job.
That was my
rather-
that was my recommendation.
Yeah, so I would say, let's allow them to come back to us and let's go back to the motion that has a first and a second.
If I may conclude, thank you for the discussion.
So are we going to give staff direction?
I'm looking at, I believe I'm hearing September is a reasonable time frame. Is September okay for this body?
Perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Perfect.
And just to add to what's been said, you know, I'd like to hear from staff. The chief said, you know, there's other things that probably are a priority, maybe taller than this. You know, I'd like to hear what those are. And then I'd like to hear what the risk that that was alluded to by cities who have done maybe a little bit more aggressive enforcement.
I can answer that part for you, Mayor. Anytime you start confiscating things, like flowers that die, you get sued for lost items. So
Okay.
similar to our homelessness challenge, when we take belongings for certain infractions after it's tagged and we wait the 48 hours and you go through all that stuff,
Yeah.
they can bring litigation. And oftentimes some cities around us that have done some of these things have faced litigation and
Wow.
lost in certain
Wow.
cases. So
Okay.
it's not because they're not following a rule, it's because a judge doesn't like a certain provision or I think one of the mayor pro tem's frustrations is why do we have rules in the first place if no one's going to enforce them? And I think
Yeah.
it's a very honestly reasonable reaction in a lot of these cases, and it's the right reaction. I think as we go about this, that the more aggressive you get on certain endeavors, we live in LA County, we live in the state of California, and it's litigious.
Right.
And oftentimes it's cheaper to settle than it is to go through litigation. And even if, you know, the party that sues you is awarded $1, sometimes attorney's fees are $1 million. So that's
They always are.
Isn't that right, Danny? So, I think that's the risk. As it relates to items that the police department would love to have, I'm sure the chief back there can unfurl a list about $30 million long if you want to have that conversation. But this is, being year two, the 2-year budget and coming up for our strategic plan, we will have an exhaustive conversation next year on what all the departments do need. But I will add that the police department, as many departments represented from the library and community development and recreation, human services, all have long lists of items that they would like funded as well. So if we're going to go down that path, this evening, I think it would be important to ask all of the departments. But if we're not, I'm happy to make sure this council is fully aware and up to date as we move forward with what those requests are.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just let me wrap up this because we still have a lot of work that we need to do. Thank you, Kyle. Where's Kyle? Did he already? Kyle probably went up to Starbucks, got a coffee, and he's back. Thank you for the good work. Excellent work. Second of all, thank you for information regarding Measure E. There's some folks that probably don't know what Measure E is, and just real quickly, citizens voted 4 or 5 years ago to keep a portion of sales tax here rather than allow the county to siphon it off. And it's been incredible what you have shown, what we've spent. The money has stayed here. Police officers, Fink Minor Park, Louis Pompey Park, streets, a lot of stuff being done. And I think the public needs to know that we're honoring the trust that they gave us. And so thank you for, doing that. And I just really appreciate the strength and everything. Adam, you and I were talking about this whole thing, and you made a statement the other day. We have done more in 1 year, I think, in infrastructure or maybe streets than
3
we
years.
have done in 3 or 5 years. And I don't want to put words in.
I actually think it's more over like 3 years than we've done in like
But-
20 years. But you will actually hear that tonight in the CIP item that's in your agenda.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, then I will save that.
I can feel Inland Valley staff back there
Yeah.
looking at me from the side. I can feel
I
Nicole
know.
staring through the side of my head back there.
Okay, so that's all I've got. A motion's been made by Karen and seconded by Gary. Please vote. And Madam Clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Alowis,
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Funeral,
Yes, please.
Mayor Thompson.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, that takes us to item 6, not Measure 6. Public hearing to consider a resolution establishing and amending the master schedule of fees for service for fiscal year 24-25. And to report back is Kyle Johnson. So with that, I will open the public hearing regarding this specific point.
All right. Good evening again, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council members. I guess to address the comment from Councilmember Davis earlier and Mayor Thompson, while I did step away, don't call this a comeback. I've been here.
Oh, that was good, Kyle. Yeah, that was good.
So the item before you tonight is the master fee schedule. So why do we update the master fee schedule for the items listed on the slide? For updates made to recover costs, for actions taken during the previous fiscal years, such as the community art program, because we only update our schedule annually. So if anything happens after we adopt it, we bring it back and we update the document formally before council to include anything that was done during the year and to fully allocate personnel costs. So here are the areas in a 30,000 foot summary where we made changes. So in administration, we made updates to address the costs of the new financial system and permitting system and address changes made by the federal government. So mainly in our passport area. So some of our fees are set for passports by the federal government. If they change their fees, we have to change them. And then in Recreation and Human Services, we took steps to address the work with the school district, as well as the local sports leagues for field maintenance. And rental costs. And then for the library, it's just language updates and clarifications. In community development, it's the community art program that I had mentioned earlier. So address those actions taken during the year, as well as address the new permitting system, costs of GIS, and general digitization of records. In public works, much the same, address new technology costs, include the water rates and charges. So previously those were in our municipal code. So now it may look like there are a lot of changes, a lot of new fees, but really they were just in a different location. So they were in our municipal code in November when City Council took action on the infrastructure assessment and rate study. The rates are now set by City Council resolution. And so we are incorporating those in the master fee schedule. So the next steps will be to approve the master fee schedule, and it'll be posted on the website. Departments will update forms and systems to reflect the new fees, and will continually evaluate during the next fiscal year. And I missed the opportunity on the budget, and since I'm still here on the master fee schedule, and it applies to both items, as you all mentioned, it is a team effort, not just within our department, but within the whole city. I couldn't have brought these things before council tonight if I didn't have the support of all the departments and their quick turnaround with the implementation of the financial system. It was a very tight window to get both of these done, and there was no hesitation. All the departments jumped in, did their part, as well as the finance staff, to get these items before you tonight. So I really appreciate that from everybody in the city working to bring these before council tonight. So the recommendation is to adopt the resolution approving the master fees or schedule of fees for fiscal year 24-25. And that concludes
Thank
my
you, Kyle.
presentation. I do have the other department representatives here if there are any specific questions on the fees.
Okay. Since this is a matter of a public hearing, do we have any cards from people who want to express their thoughts?
We do not, Mayor.
Okay, I will close the public hearing and bring this back to council, to the dais. Gary, start with you. No questions? Michael?
Thank you. Just one question for you. What's the overall percentage of increase of user fees?
So that's difficult to do by department. So we would probably say about 3%. We kind of look at what inflation or what our costs are. We've had some MOU increases and things like that. So personnel costs have increased. So generally I would say around 3%.
And we can raise the rates beyond CPI for actual costs?
It has to match what our costs are. We're not a money-making entity, right? We are a cost recovery entity. We can go up to the ability to 100% cost recovery, but generally we do that in some areas, but not in all areas of the city. So there are certain probably like typically recreation events. We wouldn't get much participation if we were probably 100% cost recovery in that area. So those are items where the general fund would subsidize.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, thank you. Karen, any questions? David?
And thank you.
Okay. Motion has been made to approve this by Gary Boyer, seconded by Michael. Please vote, and clerk will call the roll, please. Thank you.
Councilmember Alves?
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Davis?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Freenall?
Yes.
Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you again, Kyle, and I would echo what you said. Thank you to the entire team. It takes them all, so thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, we're now currently at the consent agenda. Items 7 through 13 can be approved by one motion. I see that there is a motion to approve 7 through 13 by Karen Davis and seconded by Michael. What? Nothing. Okay. And I have been advised that nobody wants to pull or comment on anything. Is that still the case? All right. Thank you. Please vote. And Madam Clerk will call the roll.
Councilmember Alves.
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer.
Yes.
Councilmember Davis.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Fennel.
Yes.
Mayor Thompson.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, this is good news for our friends from Inland Valley. So in baseball, there's everybody has a walk-up song, and our good team member here is Mark, and I was tempted to bring out the "Who Let the Dogs Out," but I thought, well, I didn't want to offend Nicole, and I didn't want to offend people who love cats and hate dogs. This is a tough job, but that's what I was going to do. And I get a thumbs up from Nicole. So that's a good sign. So anyway, what we're here to do is to approve the amendment number 1 to the agreement with the Humane Society of Pomona Valley, and also known as IVHC and SPCA, for animal sheltering and animal control for fiscal year 24 to 25 in the amount not to exceed $450,644. Mark is here to report, and it's only like 9 o'clock, so we're doing good.
I'll keep it.
And thank you for the team that's here. Nicole, I want to give you the pleasure of coming up and adding or doing whatever you want to do. But Mark, you're here to give the report. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council. At the June 8th, 2021 City Council meeting, staff presented the Animal Sheltering and Animal Control Services Agreement. City Council received the report, and the agreement was approved unanimously. This marks the 11th year the city has contracted animal sheltering and control services to IVHS. These services include pet licensing, animal care and control, sheltering, and veterinary care of lost animals, as well as investigation of abuse and nuisance complaints. The current agreement expires June 30th of 2025. The purpose of the amendment is to provide the city with continued services through the 2024 fiscal with a change to the revenue structure. The city will be billed for IVHS's cost of animal sheltering and animal control services, removing the revenue credits. Revenue credits are as follows. IVHS will receive and retain all payments collected for dog and cat licenses and related late fees, impound fees, kennel care fees, and court fines collected on behalf of the city from the service fees. Any fees collected by IVHS in connection with the service fees will be automatically remitted to IVHS. All service fees will be credited to the city against the annual fee. The amendment provides for, for a consumer price index annual adjustment. As an example, the CPI between December of 22 and 23 was 3.5%. The total cost of the contract is $450,644 for the fiscal year of 24-25. The anticipated revenue is $175,000. $175,000. The total impact is anticipated to be $275,644. Additional revenue is anticipated during canvassing years. IVH is working with all member agencies on 2 unified items, the fee schedule and animal control ordinance. The unification would further streamline the processes and unify information for animal control officers, licensing staff, and community members alike. The city has reviewed and commented on the first draft of the ordinance. An additional draft ordinance, including the city's comments, is expected in the next few months. A future item is anticipated to be brought before City Council in fiscal 24-25 for consideration. Our recommendation to approve a professional services agreement with IVHS to perform animal sheltering and animal control services within the city of Glendora for fiscal year 24-25, not to exceed the amount of $450,644. And number two, authorize the city manager or his designee to execute the amendment with IVHS. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, sir.
You did an excellent job. We appreciate your oversight in this area and Nicole being here with some of her team. With that, questions? Mayor Pro Tem, let's start with you first.
Thank you, and thank you for the Inland Valley team. A good experience. They've all been good. Their service is remarkable. I had a canvasser in my neighborhood and I was out. So I identified who he was before he figured it out. And I says, "Hey, are you doing a canvassing?" And he said, "Yes." It was a great experience, a good engagement, and a very professional gentleman. So thank you for that. And at the end of the day, I told him who it was. I didn't go bad on him first. So he did well. But thank you for that great service.
Great. Thank you. Karen, anything?
No, thank you as always for all that you do. I've been over there a few times in the last few months, so thank you.
Michael.
Nicole, it's been a while since we've seen you. And I just have a curious question on your software, because you were going through some iterations, some changes, and then you ended up going with a completely different software. I've not had any complaints in a very long time, so I'm assuming that it's doing really well. Do you want to, let us know a little bit how that's going?
Yeah, so we ended up partnering with DocuPet. A lot of agencies have started to migrate to them. It's a seamless online tool. We have a lot of residents that still like to come in person and pay, or pay over the phone, or mail us, which they can certainly do. But the user-friendly nature of the online portal, so that you can go in there and you can update your rabies vaccinations, you can pay online. You can also remove deceased pets, or if you have rehomed a pet, you can take it off of your record, so that it's, for those of you that don't like to come into the office and have to deal with anybody, it's just right there at your fingertips. Their customer service has been great. We've even had, when we have somebody have an issue, their CEO has reached out directly to residents to address any issues that have come up that are kind of the one-off issues. So far, so good. I've received positive feedback from some people that work in the animal profession and animal welfare profession. And they said, "Oh, I used the system and it was great." And now they're thinking about it for their own agency. So that's good feedback.
No, that's great, because I've not had any complaints from anybody. And, we had some issues in the very beginning. They're all gone.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Gary.
Nicole, if I understand right, right now you're currently working with your member cities, trying to get some consistency in the fee schedule and the ordinances?
Yeah, so the fee schedule is almost there. Everybody has gone through some iterations over the last couple of years, because some people had, decided they would change a fee. Like, for example, we don't recommend doing a senior discount for an unaltered pet, because you're still promoting a discount for an unaltered pet. When shelters are overpopulated, we're asking for the discount basically to be applied to the altered rate only. Now, there's a senior citizen discount on top of that for most agencies. But the big heart of the matter now is really the municipal code. And as you can imagine, getting several cities on board with the changes, we're still trying to go through another iteration. So it's been a couple of years in the making, longer than I would have liked, but we got this thing called a brand new medical center going on, and trying to provide those lowest cost services. And as I was telling Mark earlier, we actually the board approved to buy a mobile spay and neuter unit. So we ordered that. It will be in the running into communities within the next year. So we're really excited about that, because we're trying to take the programs and services to the community.
I didn't know that was in the works. Is that going to be something that's going to be available on call, or is it going to be like set up at events and?
All of the above. So we're looking to, once we get it in service, our hope is that we can go out and help people in the community for low cost services for spay and neuter, well checks, things like that. And in addition, do some TNR. So we're going to go back to trying to do the free TNR, but again, targeted. And so at first we'll start off with, a couple times a week, and then we'd like to ramp it up to be 5 days a week, but we'll just see what we have for resources at that time.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the effort and try to coordinate the member cities, because one of the things that's always hard to explain is, why is it here in San Dimas and here in Glendora, and why the cost difference and so on. So appreciate that, and good luck with it. That won't be easy to.
Thank you.
I would echo what has just been said. Thank you for really stepping up and facing some of the challenges that a number of years ago that we had. I ran across one, one of your board members a couple months ago at a event, and he sheepishly said, "So how are things going?" I said, "Things are going very, very well." And his color just changed. He was like, I said, "No, I'm serious. Things have really improved." And so I just want to publicly say that and echo what Michael, Gary, and others have said. Let us know 2 or 3 what we can do to help to encourage other of our peer groups to lean in so we all have a fair, equitable master fee plan, because I think that is good. And lastly, just thank you for all of the good work that you have done here, especially with some of the peacocks that we've had to find a new home for and everything. Thank you for just the consultative role that you've given Mark and the captains back there. I think that Chris will attest that he never once thought he would know as much about the peacock world as he now knows. And so thank you for all of that.
Well, I just want to say thank you, because from administration through PD, Parks and Rec, we have a really good relationship and good communication. So it's been great. I mean, I'll give a shout out to Annie. Annie actually one day picked up one of your residents and brought them to the shelter because she had no transportation and she was getting a service. And so again, that's that relationship. You just pick up the phone and call, and it was awesome. So
that's great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Nicole, do you want to make an aimless plug for adopting some pets?
I would like to make an aimless plug. I will give my public service announcement, which is that Mark is actually holding up a sign. We actually have these available. We are giving this to the city, but in hopes that you will promote keeping your pets indoors for the 4th of July. But we do have these available at the shelter if anybody would like to buy them for $5. Believe it or not, July 5th is horrible for shelters. And July 4th is horrible for pets. So as much as we all like to celebrate Independence Day and enjoy fireworks, or many of us like fireworks, it is really hard on our furry companions. And so, they tend to get out, end up in the shelter. So it's a very busy day for us. What I would say is that most shelters are over capacity. So even if it is not from IBHS that you were adopting a pet, please look at other shelters, other local adoption partners. We do a lot with Petco PetSmart and transporting cats. If any of you are following our social media, we did a big transport a couple weeks ago. We transferred over 43 pets.
Wow.
Thank you. And a partridge and a pear tree.
Yeah.
So yes. It's a testament to the relationships that we've built as well throughout the state, outside of the state, other humane societies, nonprofit rescue groups, because believe it or not, some communities don't have as many adoptable pets. And so, we're all trying to help each other. And so if the community can do their part, spay and neuter your pets. Our new medical center, we do low cost spay and neuter and other services. But as a matter of fact, we were at Glendora Women's Club, and thank you to them for giving us a donation. And they had no idea. One of the residents said, I went to a vet and it was $600 for me to get my dog fixed. And I said, what kind of dog do you have? And she said, Chihuahua. And I said, where do you live? She said, Glendora. I said, that'll be $100. Sign up. Just give us a call. So we have 4 fantastic low-cost spay and neuter programs. And so, we want to be a community resource. I know the days of what shelters were like and what people were viewing them, they really have evolved. And so we want to be a part of that collaboration and trying to provide service delivery for Glendora.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, we want that too. And thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, Mark, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Excellent job. And we have a motion by Karen Davis, seconded by Michael, to approve this. Please vote. And Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Alves?
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer?
Yes.
Councilmember Davis?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Friedel?
Yes.
Mayor Thompson?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 15. is the FY 23-24 Capital Improvement Program update. This is really important. The budget was paramount, I think, but I think next to that is the CIP. A lot of people don't know what that means. I just said what it means, but we live this every day because it pertains to where we walk and drive every day. So with that, Bill Whitcomb is here, and we appreciate you, Bill, and the leadership that you have given and continue to give here. So it's yours.
Great. Thank you, Mary. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. It has been quite some time since we've been here to provide you with a CIP update, so I'm pretty excited to talk to you about all the fun things that we've been doing. We're going to be talking a little bit about what we've done, what's in progress, and what's coming. So with that, in our strategic plan, we talked about maintaining our financial sustainability and also enhancing and modernizing our organization and improving the city's infrastructure. So on June 27th, 2023, the City Council approved our fiscal year 23-24 and 24-25 two-year budget. And in that, we had a 5-year capital plan, nearly $120 million, 16.3 million funded projects in the current year, and another 12.2 million. So that is a lot of work, and the staff have been very busy doing that. So some completed projects, there's a large list here. I won't go through every single one of them for you, but our staff have accomplished a lot. You can see that we've had our Gladstone Water Reservoir project that was done, the Finkbeiner pickleball tennis court improvements, the Louis Pompey turf, the citywide slurry seal projects, work in the police department, our Washington Elementary School project, library boiler, just a whole host of things that we've done. So it has been a very successful year, and we have a lot more coming up. Wanted to show just kind of a map of where the work has been done, just so you can see that we haven't been focusing in one particular area. We have been working all over the city. And I think it's important to point that out, that we've been spreading this work. We've been taking on those priorities wherever they are in the city and making sure that we're taking care of everybody that's out there. So I've got a series of pictures of some of the completed projects. Here you can see the Gladstone Reservoir demo and new parking lot project, the before and afters there. Our Lawford and the Cossack St. Vladimir Street work, you can see there again before and after, and then another set of pictures for that. Again, a great paving project that really cleaned up those streets and made things so much better. Finkbeiner Park, the pickleball and tennis courts, definitely huge difference in the before and after, and anybody who's been by the park lately knows how popular those courts are. So we've done a number of pedestrian crossing enhancements near the elementary schools. So I just wanted to point out a couple of those. You can see that we've cleaned those up. We put in new crosswalks that have the thermoplastic that are brighter and some new signage out there. One of our favorite projects here, at least mine, the Louis Pompey turf replacement project. And with that was also the shade structure, and just a beautiful project. And that was done, and a great team effort to get that project to the finish line. So the Eagle Ridge Street rehabilitation and emergency water line repair project. So again, another one you can see the before and after, what a difference it makes when we're out there. Washington Elementary School crosswalk program. This was a fun one to get done. It's been an interesting process and great working with Stephen Mateer and his team as we got through this and making those enhancements out there. So our slurry seal project, that's one of those ones. It's amazing how much better a street can look after you do a little bit of crack filling and come out and put a slurry seal on. You can see the before and after and what that looks like. And then we have a bunch of projects that are under construction. And I think these are some of the things that are really fun. You can see that we have the Bennett Avenue up there. We have Amelia, the Country Club, Cumberland, all those projects with a water line and then a repaving project. The Mauna Loa area street rehabilitation and water main project, Finkbeiner Park with the second phase of that, with the parking lot, the crosswalks, and the playground area. Also our citywide facilities assessment and the Dale Road property demolition project. So with that one, I would like to let you know that we actually started that project yesterday. So it took us a while to get here. It took a long time to get through some of the permitting processes with AQMD and others, but that project kicked off yesterday. You'll probably see for the next 45 days or so, it's going to look like there's not a lot going on. It's going to be kind of slow. There's a couple of reasons for that. That abatement process of getting rid of the asbestos and the lead is fairly slow. There are also some other AQMD process or permits that we need to get while we're doing that process. So that will slow down a little bit, but once it's abated, you'll see that it will pick up pretty quickly as they start taking the buildings down. So you can also see we have some of the CDB projects that are up there as well. And again, I wanted to point out the map just to show that, once again, we're working all over the city. I also wanted to point out a little bit about the road projects. I've definitely heard it from literally before I started work here, when there was an Instagram post went out that I had been selected for the position. One of the comments was, good, I hope he can fix the streets. So, and I've gotten letters from residents about, hey, when are you going to fix the street? So we have been doing quite a bit. We have a long ways to go, but just between our pavement projects, the slurry seal, and the water and street improvement projects, between last year and this year, and the projects that we're talking about, like Bennett and some of the others, when those are done, we will have improved 21.9 lane miles worth of streets. So, and that is quite a bit in our city. So I'm very proud of that. We have a lot of work to do, but I think it's important that we point that out and that we are making those improvements out there. So under design, oh my goodness, we have a lot of things that are happening that are under design right now. The South Hills Bike Park, the corporate yard improvements, council chambers, the interior upgrades, and the potential expansion. Finkbiner stormwater capture project, that is going to be an exciting project if that gets approved. Lone Hill Route 66, the San Dimas Wash Street rehab, the North Glendora Reservoir project, which I'm going to touch on a little bit more in a minute. We also have our slurry seal projects and the downtown parking lot. So you can see there is a ton going on. We do have a number of assessment studies that were done. The citywide facilities condition assessment. We did the first part of the antique streetlights, the water master plan. For me, that is a huge one. That's really one of those foundational documents that's going to help us make decisions over the next 5, 10, 15 years of how we're taking care of some of our infrastructure. We had the library structural assessment, and then our citywide ERP and land management. So with that, there's a couple things I want to talk about. One of the projects, the North Glendora Reservoir Replacement Project, bringing that up tonight only because I continue to get lots of questions about that project from the community and others on where we are with that project and kind of what the next steps are. So right now we're at about 90% complete with the design documents. We are still working on the environmental documents. Those will be out soon. The biggest challenge that we're facing right now with that project is going to be the site access. So really, how are we going to get all of the construction equipment up there? How are we going to get all the materials up there? How are we going to get all the workers up there? More importantly, how are we going to coordinate that with all the residents that live in that area to try and reduce those impacts? So this week on Monday, staff had a meeting with a couple of our consultants who have some experience in trying to get construction equipment into very tight areas and down private roads and narrow driveways and that kind of stuff. So we are working on that. Once we have that, I think, kind of general plan and site access review done, then we're going to schedule some community meetings with those neighbors that live up there. We want to make sure that we bring them into that process, talk to them about how we're going to get up there, what we're going to do, how we're going to minimize those impacts, and have a number of community meetings with that as well. So that project is still moving forward. It's just very intricate. So we wanted to make sure we gave you a quick update tonight on that. We have a number of things that you can see, another 17 projects that are in proposal or pre-design. There are a few up here that are very important to me. The HSIP funded for the traffic signal projects. We have 7 intersections that we're trying to get through the HSIP process and get those intersections upgraded. One of those was at the Grand and Baseline. So hopefully we can get that approved and get that project going. We have more street improvement projects. Also, we're going to be redoing our pavement management plan. I think that's really important. It's been a number of years since we've had the pavement management plan updated. One, we've done a lot of work and we've upgraded some of our streets, so we want that to be reflected in the new plan. More importantly, we had a couple of years of some historic rain, which everybody that drives around town knows that's had some massive impacts on our roadways. So I think it's important that we have that plan updated so we have a better guiding document to where we're going in the future. The ADA transition plan, that is a huge one for us. It will be looking at not only our facilities, but also our parks and our sidewalks to make sure that we're taking into account all of those projects that we need to do to make sure that our city is accessible for everyone. We have the master plan, some of our citywide space planning, let's see, police department work, Rock House, the LaFetra Center building improvements. So obviously those staircases and a few other things in the exterior that we're working on. So you can see the staff are just jumping on a ton of projects and a lot more there are coming soon. With that, some project highlights. Sorry, Mayor, I'm going to touch on this a little bit tonight before Thursday, but I think it was important that we talked about the Glendora Avenue water line and repaving project. Give you just a little bit of a timeline right now. The project is going to be repaving Glendora from Gladstone to 66, and then from 66 north up to Foothill will be done as part of the People Movement project. So we are currently working on the RFP for design services. That should go out late summer. So we anticipate that it will probably take 18 months for the design services, probably another 4 to 6 months to go out to bid and do the award, and probably another 24 months of construction to get that project complete. And I know that's not making a lot of people happy, because another 4 years before that's done is going to be difficult. And one of the questions we got is, why is it going to take so long? There is an extensive amount of coordination that's going to be required for this project to be successful. We're going to have to work with LA County Flood Control. We've got to get underneath the flood control channel there. We have to work with all of the utilities. We know there's Edison poles all along there. There's electric utilities. More importantly, Southern California Gas Company has a main transmission line that runs right next to, and in some cases is actually touching our water main. So we're going to have to coordinate with them. We also have to work with California Department of Transportation, because we're going under the 210. So you can see there's just a lot of coordination from that side of it, as well as we have some right-of-way issues that we're going to need to address, because when this is done, we want to make sure that we have, again, good full access for all of our residents from an ADA compliance perspective. So this project really is going to be kind of a complete streets. We want to make sure when this is done, it looks like it's brand new. We want to touch everything. So we're going to take care of the water lines, the utilities. We want to make sure we take care of any curb and gutter issues, sidewalk issues, all the signs, all the markings, any tree issues, anything, so that when we are done, the whole street is done from basically edge line to edge line. And it looks perfect when we're done. Now, I also know that 4 years to get that fixed is going to make a lot of people really upset. So one of the things we've been doing was been identifying some of the areas that are really, really bad, that we know probably aren't going to make it those 4 years. So over the next probably 4 to 5, maybe 6 months, we're going to go out there and mill down some of the surfaces and some of the areas that are really bad, and see if we can put a 1-inch skin patch on top of those really bad areas. I know it won't be perfect. I know it'll come out in a few years, but hopefully that'll provide some relief for some of those areas that are getting really bumpy and tough for people to drive over. So I will keep you updated on that project as we move along. But that is one that we actually moved up in the queue, just because as we started to talk about it, we realized that it was a pretty long lead time to get that project out there and get it to completion. So just a quick reminder that we do have an engineering CIP webpage, and that has been updated with the help of the team. So if anybody missed anything or has any other questions, you can go there for any other information that you might have. So, and before I finish the presentation tonight, I just want to say, well, I'm the one that's fortunate enough to get up here and make the presentation. I'm certainly not the one that deserves the credit for the work. Not only have the engineering staff been working really hard, we've had great support from TransTech and the contract that you approved several months back to get these projects moving. But it's been an entire city process, like Kyle said, from finance, risk management to Jeff's team over in planning, building and safety, everybody that's involved, that city clerk, I mean, everybody across the board. Tremendous support from our wonderful city manager, our assistant city manager and deputy city manager, and then most of all, the support that we get from all of you, from the council and mayor. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that support. It means the world to me and the staff and everybody that's working on this. So thank you. And thank you for allowing me to bring you a brief update on our CIP project. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Wow. Excellent. Thank you, Bill. That was worth staying up for. It really was. So we appreciate each one of the people that you have spoken about, but appreciate you. Karen, do you want to start?
Yes, thank you very much. Very comprehensive, a lot of information. Very quickly, appreciate that. One question, and I don't know if you would have an answer to this, but as you were talking about intersection safety, a couple of residents have contacted me. They really loved the crosswalk we put down for Earth Day right there at the corner of Mountain View across Cullen.
Okay.
And they were very sad, myself included, when it disappeared. And so people have been asking, are we going to go back and put a permanent one there that, especially with the concerts in the park and the movies in the park, because a lot of us use that access parking lot across the street and then go across to the park. And that really did provide some extra safety. So
we can certainly bring it up at the TSEC meeting. We want to have our traffic engineer take a look at that before we made any permanent changes. But yeah, absolutely, I can bring that up.
Yeah, because people were all excited when they saw it on Earth Day, and they were like, wow, finally they put this crosswalk. And then it was gone.
Yeah, and that's one of the areas, the Safe Streets program, the ordinance that the city council adopted would help us evaluate. That wouldn't typically qualify, like Foothill and La Fetra, so we'll have to evaluate it through those lens. Do I have that right, Moises? All right, I thought I caught him not paying attention back there, but he nailed it.
All right. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate that. Michael?
My sentiment is exactly, wow, that was a hell of a report. Are you having fun?
I'm having a blast.
Great.
Absolutely. It's great when you can sit back. We had, National Public Works Week a couple of weeks back, and you can look at I think the tangible impacts that we're having on the community and trying to improve the quality of life.
No, you answered all my questions. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Now that's a wow. Right there. Not only were you good, but you answered all these questions. That's
See what I have to deal with?
we'll move right along to Gary.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. The North Glendora Reservoir project.
Yes.
North Glendora Avenue and Easley Canyon are both possible ingress and egress in there, and those are 100% private drives once we get north of the gate?
Yes.
Okay. I thought it was, but I wasn't 100% sure. And then you mentioned the Finkbeiner Reservoir project.
Yes.
And I believe you said if it gets funded. I was under the impression that it did get funded.
It has been approved. It still requires board action from the County Board of Supervisors, which we anticipate will go sometime in August. So there's always a chance that something could go sideways. At this point, it has approval. The funds are available. So, but we want to make sure that we give the County Board of Supervisors the opportunity to approve that before we get too far down the road with it.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yep,
That was it. Thank
absolutely.
you.
David?
Thank you, Bill, and the entire team, and nobody can retire until all those things are done.
I'll let them know.
Great job. Thank you.
Bill, just one thing on the under construction
Yeah.
projects, slide number 14, there's 14 actual things. Do you have a guess as to when those might be done? I mean, are we a year, 18 months out or 6 months out on just, kind of a big picture thing?
That's a great answer. So for the first one, 1 through 5, 6 through 6, 7, 8, and 9, and 10's not too far behind. Those will be coming to you probably in August for notice of completion. So we're working on the final
okay.
punch list items for those. Attendance in the same place. The citywide facility security assessment, that project has already started. You've seen some of the work around City Hall and some of the other facilities. So phase 1 is underway. That's probably going to be, and I could refer to Michael, but probably a couple of years or a year and a half for total project completion, or
Should be like a few months.
okay, so a few months. There we go. So on phase 1, Dale Road project, again, the demolition, we're probably looking at, we've been telling residents sometime early September that should be done. So the CDBG curb ramps are just about completed. We will be coming back to you though with the Route 66 sidewalk and curb ramp. We had an issue with the contractor, so we're going to have to reissue that contract to a different person. The original contractor awarded to was unable to perform the duties that they had signed up to do. So that will be coming to you probably the first meeting in July.
Great.
So we're getting close.
Second quick question and final one. Are you still seeing a rapid rise in terms of concrete and asphalt and that hard kind of material stuff that we've experienced the last like 6 months now? It just seems to go off the chart.
I think the concrete seems to have stabilized a little bit from a
Okay.
price perspective. The asphalt's still really up and down because it's very market driven on price. But what we are still seeing is you can't just call the plant, say, hey, I need a truck tomorrow.
Really?
We're still having to get in line, schedule those. We dealt with that with some of the paving on Bennett. And again, when we were getting ready to pave Country Club out there, we had a date that was set to pave. It looked like we might miss that. If you missed that, it was a 30-day wait until they could get back out and get everything going again. So it's more now a timing issue to make sure when we schedule those that we have to get that work done. Otherwise, we fall back in line.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
I've got one question.
Sure. You just couldn't help
Well, no,
yourself.
you just triggered something about the right on Bennett turning right, going north onto Grand. There's you have you have to wait for the signal to turn for it. And is there any way we can relook at that? Having to wait for that signal, because you've got that Sharrow line that goes through there. You have to make a right, but you have to wait for the whole cycle to go through to make a right-hand turn.
It's
And
a
that's
bit-
only that way, but the other side, you don't have to wait.
Right. I know that that was done for safety of the pedestrians in that area. There was an assessment that was done, a traffic study. So I would say that it would probably be best for me to go back and look at that first, rather than committing to make any of those changes. I am not a traffic engineer, and I'd hate to make, that I would commit to some kind of change without going through that process and have it result in some kind of an accident. So I would say we could go back and take a look at that and evaluate that. But the first thing I'd want to do is look at what the traffic engineer's recommendations were.
And I would just add, that was grant funding specifically for that allocation and reason why. We built that, the city council approved it for that specific reason.
But in practice, it's challenging.
Well, not in the mornings or when school gets out.
Excuse
It's
me?
pretty significant in the morning and school gets out in the afternoon. And so that is where we had the pedestrian car accident. So again, that is why the grant agreement was provided and how that signalization got paid for. So we need to be very careful on that front.
Yeah, but it's not going eastbound. Eastbound, it doesn't have the issue on Bennett. It's still crossing a crosswalk.
Correct. But I think it's important to remember that it's designed as that grant agreement was provided for.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Please vote. We have a motion by Gary, seconded by Karen, and if you'll vote, and then the clerk can call the oral roll. vote.
Councilmember Alowitz,
Yes, it's not coming up on our screen. On my screen? Oh, it's yours.
What's that?
It's not coming up on my screen.
Councilmember Boyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Friedel,
Yes.
Mayor Thompson.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, great. Thank you. This takes us down to item 16, our final agenda item for tonight, the annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2023. And once again, we are pleased to hear from our treasurer for the city, Kyle Johnson. Kyle, welcome back.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council members. So this is a fitting item to end the night on. So I started my presentations showing how we're going to spend our money and what services we're going to provide. Then I got to talk about what fees we're going to use to provide those services and fund all of our programs. And then we had Bill up here to provide an update on what we've done with our money so far. And now this this report is our audited financial statements, which is a report on what we did in the year past. So how did we end the year? So the item before you tonight is the annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year ended June 30, 2023. So I may refer to it both as the audited financial statements or the ACFR. It's the new acronym for the annual comprehensive financial report. So this report includes the items listed on that slide. The different sections provide information on the city from its internal controls, a summary and highlights of the statements, the numbers, which would be like the basic financial statements portion of it, notes to the statements, and metrics to evaluate city operations. Key takeaways from this report are it is a snapshot as a specific date and time. It reviews city procedures, internal controls, and records. It is a review review of our financials to make sure they are fairly presented and free of material misstatements. It is not an all-inclusive review to eliminate all and any possibilities of fraud. That's sometimes a misconception of what an audit is. It also is required by the different stakeholders as listed on this slide: bond issuers, the state statute, city policy, and the residents. The audit is performed in accordance with principles and standards listed on the slide for consistency across all agencies, not just in the state of California, but nationally as well. So for government-wide statement of activities, the decrease in the city's net position is primarily due to a drastic change in CalPERS investment return, which we did discuss briefly earlier with the budget over the previous actuarial valuation. So as the city manager mentioned, it's a 2-year lag between what the investment return that CalPERS experiences and when it affects us, the cities. So in 2021, it affected our prior year's statement for 22, where we had a 21.3% return. Everything was looking great. And then in 2022, CalPERS lost 6.1%. And so greatly fluctuated and created a net pension asset into a net pension liability, creating the change here. The makeup of the city's net position is shown here, the largest piece being the non-spendable piece, which is represented by capital assets. So that's the money that Bill was just talking about, what we spent and what we have on the books as assets for the cities, not only infrastructure, vehicle, it could be vehicles, machinery and equipment, all the like. The restricted items are items that are designated for a specific purpose. Unrestricted are maybe committed or assigned that are not legally restricted, things that council set the reason why we are saving it for a specific purpose. So the general fund, the increase in fund balance, primarily that is due to the ARPA funds, where we had to do accounting entries to actually recognize the revenue. So we may have had cash in hand or in the bank, but we actually were able to recognize the revenue in the current year because we took action. We essentially spent the money. The other item of note is the general fund in 2023 did meet its 45% reserve requirements and was able to address capital projects, pension stabilization, as well as our other post-employment benefits and additional items. So as we can see here, those are like capital projects, the items that the general fund was able to address and the different reserves. So for the water fund, it's primarily used to address capital projects with a recent infrastructure assessment. And as you can see, we've got significant unrestricted fund balances. Internal service funds. So these are the other funds. These are other funds that are reviewed and audited. Again, we were in compliance on those audits. The successor agency is set by our annual trip down to the county offices to meet with the oversight board. They tell us what we can spend, and then the state looks at it and tells us you can have less money. So for our previous ACFR and our PAFR, so the PAFR are popular annual financial reporting. So it's a shorter version, a lot fewer pages, and highlights of the audited financial statements. We received the award for both of those programs, and typically we issue the goal is to issue 6 months after the end of your fiscal year, but we're allowed to apply for extensions, so we still have the opportunity to apply for the award for the 2023 financial statements and popular annual financial report. So after tonight's meeting, we will place the audit on the city website, so that way it's available for everybody to review and peruse to their heart's content. My guess is I'll click on it the most, or anybody else in the finance department. So the recommendation tonight is to receive and file the annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2023. Available for any questions.
All right. Thank you, Kyle. Any questions for Kyle regarding the year-end 22? All right. Karen?
I was just going to say, besides you and the finance department, probably Mendel's the next one clicking on it.
Yes,
Of course.
It's true.
Always look at it.
Yes.
It's always interesting stuff. Okay. With that, Michael has made a motion, seconded by David. Please vote. Madam Clerk, you can call the vote orally.
Councilmember Ellis,
Yes.
Councilmember Boyer,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Freenall,
Yes.
Mayor Thompson.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All right. Thank you, Kyle,
Thank
for
you.
taking us home. Appreciate that. All right, well, concludes the agenda as posted from the dais. Is there anything that anybody needs to say, want to report out on? I would once again encourage anybody who hasn't to consider coming to the State of the City on Thursday. And that will be a very informative time. So please think about that. Adam, anything? Danny? You've been quiet tonight. Anybody else? Chief, captains? Anything? All right. Well, with that, we thank you for being here, giving us the chance to serve you, and we are adjourned at 9:38.